A search and rescue operation south of Lama after a fishing boat collided with an oil tanker and sank. Singapore and Australia suspend operations of all Boeing 737 MAX jets in and out of their airports. And Theresa May secures Brexit deal changes from the EU ahead of a crucial parliamentary vote.
Good evening and welcome. A fishing boat sank in the waters south of Lama Island after colliding with an oil tanker this morning. All crew members of the tanker are safe, but it's not immediately clear how many people were on board the sunken vessel. As Kana Chu reports, both Guangdong and Hong Kong authorities have launched search and rescue operations in the area.
Officers of the Fire Services Department and the Marine Department rushed to the scene on rescue boats after they were notified of the collision at 8:45 a.m. Government flying service helicopters were deployed as well. The collision between an oil tanker and a fishing boat happened beyond local waters south of Lama Island, causing the latter to sink. According to photographs provided by fishermen nearby, the tanker remained there after the collision. An item believed to be from the sunken vessel was later seen floating on the sea surface. Sources say the oil tanker was carrying 13 people. They were all safe after the collision. 3 of them attempted rescue on a life raft. It is unknown how many people were on board the fishing boat or if they are missing. Police took the items recovered from the scene of the collision to the Marine Police Aberdeen base. The oil tanker reportedly left Qingdao for Shenzhen last Thursday. It was meant to arrive in Hong Kong last night, but ended up colliding with a mainland fishing boat this morning. As this happened in the waters of Guangdong province, the case has now been handed over to Guangdong authorities. Kana Chu, TVB News.
The Housing Authority will introduce a new batch of home ownership scheme flats in May of this year. This would provide some 4,000 residential units at a price of almost 40% below market level. The discount is less than that offered in the previous round of HOS flats. Units at 6 housing estates will be up for sale. Prices will range from $1.6 million to $5.3 million per unit.
Young people can soon expect a youth hostel that offers cheap accommodation. But as Sharon Tang reports, the project is facing criticism despite its good intentions.
In 2 years' time, a 27-story youth hostel will be built here in Yuen Long and provide nearly 1,700 hostel places. The goal is to help young people aged 18 to 30 save up by renting out flats at half of market levels. That means a 2-person unit of 215 square feet would only cost some $4,000 per month. Here's more.
We offer also supportive services, including career guidance and also financial literacy guidance, as well as entrepreneurship support services. We hope that through the years they stay here, they can build up their personal capacity.
That's from Po Leung Kuk, the charity organization responsible for managing the hostel on a self-financing basis. However, a lawmaker disagrees with such matchmaking.
Assign the responsibility to the NGO to be the builder, to be the developers. That is unusual, and it causes a time cost for the project development because they are not familiar to the whole process, which is highly expertise and technically required.
It's also worth noting that there are 5 more projects like this one under the youth hostel scheme. It was introduced by the then Chief Executive Donald Tsang in 2011. So far, only 2 foundation works have been laid. In response to questions on why it took so long to complete a single project that was introduced in 2011, Po Leung Kuk explained that it was because the Yuen Long site was only secured from donor Henderson Land in 2015. Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Singapore and Australia have suspended operations of all Boeing 737 MAX jets in and out of their airports. This follows 2 deadly plane crashes in less than 5 months involving that type of aircraft. While a growing number of countries have grounded their fleets of 737 MAX planes, the Federal Aviation Administration in the United States insists the aircraft is safe to fly. Singapore and Australia are following the lead of Ethiopia, Indonesia, and China by suspending operations on all Boeing 737 MAX aircraft. This comes after 2 fatal crashes involving that model. 157 people died when an Ethiopian Airlines jet crashed on Sunday, and 189 people were killed in a Lion Air disaster in Indonesia last October. Now, Vietnam is refusing to grant licenses to local airlines to operate the 737 MAX. And in Argentina, the Pilots Association halted members from flying that model of plane. The probe should be completed fairly quickly, given the 2 black boxes, both the data and voice recorders, have been located. While some Democratic senators in America are demanding the troubled fleet be grounded, the Federal Aviation Administration assured operators of the plane's safety by issuing an airworthiness notification. But given 2 fatal disasters in a short span of time, this expert says the MAX 8 could have an airworthiness problem that is yet to be detected.
Airworthiness directive is a correction of some generally mechanical thing or procedure that is issued by the FAA. It is a directive to either a manufacturer or, in this case, to an aircraft operator to say, you must do this in order to bring the operation of that aircraft into a safe, airworthy state.
Witnesses say smoke and sparks were trailing from the back of the Ethiopian Airlines plane before it took a nosedive. In last year's Lion Air crash, pilots struggled in vain to fight against the plane's automated nose-down commands before it plunged to the ground. Nevertheless, the FAA is trying to discourage comparing the disasters until their probe is completed. As mourners attended a memorial for the crew that perished in the Ethiopian Airlines crash, comes the story of a man who missed Sunday's doomed flight by mere seconds. Antonis Mavropoulos admits he fought with ground crew to allow him on board, but to no avail. He said it's bittersweet. He's thankful he's alive, but devastated so many others died.
British and the European Union leaders have emerged from last-minute talks to announce they've removed the biggest roadblock to their Brexit deal, legally binding assurances. It's a last-ditch attempt to sway rebellious British lawmakers who threaten to vote the deal down again later today. Alan Booknia reports.
On the eve of the vote, British Prime Minister Theresa May flew to France to seek revisions from EU leaders. She wanted guarantees from European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker on the backstop mechanism designed to keep the Irish border open. Brexit supporters fear the backstop could be used to tie Britain to EU regulations indefinitely. At a joint news conference, they claim to have succeeded.
First, a joint instrument with comparable legal weight to the withdrawal agreement will guarantee that the EU cannot act with the intent of applying the backstop indefinitely. If they do, it can be challenged through arbitration, and if they are found to be in breach, the UK can suspend the backstop.
In politics, sometimes you get a second chance. It is what we do with the second chance that counts, because there will be no third chance. There will be no further interpretation of the interpretations and no further assurances on the reassurances if the winning vote fails tomorrow. Let us be crystal clear about the choice. It is this deal or Brexit might not happen at all.
But the changes fall short of Brexiteers' demands for a unilateral British exit mechanism from the backstop. They accuse May of surrendering to the EU. but it may persuade some lawmakers to change their votes. 116 switched votes are needed to reverse the crushing defeat May's deal suffered on January 15th. Britain is due to pull out of the EU on March 29th. If lawmakers vote down May's deal, she is promised a vote on Wednesday on whether to leave the EU without a deal, and if they reject that, then a vote on whether to ask for a limited delay to Brexit. Alan Booknia, TVB News.
Washington has dismissed reports that China is wary of another trade summit after President Donald Trump failed to make a peace deal with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. The White House said it is absurd to suggest that Trump is an unreliable negotiator. It added that trade talks with Beijing are still ongoing.
We'll see what happens with North Korea the same way we're going to see what happens in the negotiations with China. They're ongoing, and the president's going to make sure whatever deal we get is in our best interest, that it's fair and reciprocal trade, that it protects our intellectual property, and that it actually has safeguards to make sure that the Chinese follow through with whatever commitments that they make.
Sarah Sanders said no date has been set for the next trade summit. Trump was expected to host President Xi Jinping at his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida at the end of this month to finalize a deal that would end the trade war. Both sides have yet to iron out their differences, including U.S. demands for changes to China's technology policy. Washington has long accused Chinese firms of stealing intellectual property from American firms and forcing them to share technology in order to do business in China.
Still ahead in tonight's news. Algeria's ailing president abandons his re-election bid. The Department of Health under fire from the Ombudsman over its student health program's low attendance rate. And a climbable sculpture in New York City.
DNA is really just a chemical.
You can change every species to almost anything you want.
How should we use this ability?
Could we bring a mammoth back to life?
Wednesday, Nova Wonders at 9:35 on Pearl.
Here's a quick tip for finding your ideal hotel. 1. Go to Trivago. 2. Find the hotel you want. 3. Compare the different prices for the same hotel at once. That's it. Easy. Hotel Trivago.
荷蘭美素佳怡以特有嘅 Log Nutri 營養鎖流系統，鎖流超過 90% 天然蛋白小分子，全因源自荷蘭自家農場，從鮮奶到入罐單次成粉，保存天然營養，易消化。荷蘭美素佳怡。
卓遠 Accolade 香港商標註冊2500蚊，中國商標2000蚊，美國商標6500蚊，歐盟商標11500蚊，提供全球商標註冊服務，免費檢索，請電35212999。
Do you think you'd look like that if you didn't eat oats?
Are they really good for you? Or do people just think that?
You could make the connection that eating brain would be good for your brain.
This spice is a super spice.
Thursday, Superfoods, The Real Story, Season 3 at 8 on Pearl.
Sydney Harbour gathers a multitude of spectators for the December 26th start of the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. The 74th edition of this Blue Water Classic will witness an epic confrontation between the world's most powerful super maxis. A battle resolved only within sight of the finish line in Tasmania. For all 85 entries, just concluding this unforgiving challenge is reward in itself. The Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race, coming soon on the Spirit of Yachting.
This watch has seen moments that last a second and moments that last forever. It's seen the elements at their worst and performances that conquer all. Yet it's not until we look back that we understand that at those very moments, we were standing on the edge of yachting history. It doesn't just tell time, it tells history.
Welcome back to TVB News. Algeria's ailing leaders bowed to weeks of mass protests against his 20-year rule and abandoned his decision to run for a fifth term in office. The 82-year-old also postponed an election scheduled for April while promising social and economic reforms. Jeff Tang reports.
Following weeks of mass protests against President Abdelaziz Bouteflika's decision to run for a fifth term in office, Algerians were back in the streets of the capital on Monday night. Only this time they were celebrating after the president scrapped his bid for a fifth term in power. In a series of announcements on Monday evening, the 82-year-old veteran revolutionary also postponed the presidential election that had been set for April. Bouteflika said his last duty would be to contribute to the founding of a new system that will be in the hands of a new generation of Algerians. That would come in the form of a new constitution, which would be submitted to the public for a referendum. Bouteflika's announcements came after he met the head of the army who stood by the people and respected veteran diplomat Lakhdar Brahimi, a former Algerian foreign minister and UN special envoy. Brahimi declared victory on state television, saying the voice of the people has been heard. However, the ailing leader would remain in power until the end of the year, pending a national conference on political change. The conference will be headed by an independent, consensual and experienced national figure. Still, it was good enough for the tens of thousands of Algerians who had protested day and night the last few weeks, demanding a new era of politics. They had slammed the country's elderly ruling elite for still dwelling on the independence movement's victory over France instead of helping young people who are desperate for jobs. A staggering 1/4 of Algerians under 30 are unemployed. Bouteflika's decision to relinquish power diffused the potential for a bloody showdown between protesters and security forces, which was common among several Arab nations facing political upheaval in recent years. Meanwhile, Algeria's former colonial ruler France welcomed the president's decision, expressing hopes that the proposed changes can get underway quickly. Jeff Tang, TVB News.
The U.S. State Department said it will withdraw all remaining diplomatic personnel from Venezuela this week, citing the deteriorating situation in the country. Much of Venezuela remains without power for a fifth straight day. The situation was exacerbated by an explosion at a power station in Caracas. That prompted President Nicolas Maduro to go on television and again accuse the United States of sabotaging their power supply by staging cyber attacks. At the National Assembly, self-proclaimed President Juan Guaido declared a national state of alarm over the power failures. But that move is seen as symbolic only, since Maduro retains control of the armed forces and state institutions.
Here at home, an ombudsman investigation has revealed years of inaction by two government departments over persistent problems. They include student health programs, persistently low attendance rates, and unchecked subletting of designated private boat mooring areas. Haley Joe reports.
The Ombudsman today criticized the Department of Health for turning a blind eye to its student health service program's low attendance rates. Under this program, more than 600,000 primary and secondary students are supposed to receive annual physical and mental health assessments. In the past few years, only about 65% of the enrolled students have taken their annual examinations.
They should be alerted of such low attendance rate, and they should also to look into reason leading to this very low attendance rate. But unfortunately, this is not done. So since our intervention, the Department of Health started doing things like in this regard.
The Ombudsman suggested the Department of Health to enhance online services for participating students and their parents, such as allowing parents to access their children's medical records and assessment results online to increase the appeal of the program. The watchdog also warned about unchecked subletting of designated private boat mooring areas. The market rent goes up to $10,000 per month, many times higher than the fees charged by the Marine Department, making subletting a profitable business.
Under the existing legal framework, subletting of PM is not illegal. However, Marine Department, under such circumstances, has chosen to rationalize the subletting activities rather than amending the legislation to plug the legal loophole.
Haley Zhou, TVB News.
Local deputies to the National People's Congress offered condolences to their colleague Peter Wong, who died last night at the age of 70. Wong was in Beijing to attend the annual plenary meeting, but returned to Hong Kong after feeling ill. Caleb Leung has the details.
On behalf of the National People's Congress, let us express our deep condolences to the unfortunate death of Deputy Peter Wong. This morning's NPC meeting began with the mourning of Wong, who died yesterday at the age of 70. His colleagues had nothing but high praises for Wong. Bernard Chen noted Wong's serious attitude about his work, while Michael Tian described Wong as a passionate and devoted deputy. Chief Executive Carrie Lam called Wong a patriotic entrepreneur who promoted Hong Kong's commerce and trade on the mainland. Wong studied in the United States before starting a long career in the business sector. He was one of the first Hong Kong businessmen to invest on the mainland after its opening up. Wong served as an NPC deputy since 1993. Wong claimed the 36th and final place among 49 candidates in the last Hong Kong NPC delegates election. Liberal Party member Nicholas Chan is expected to fill Wong's place, subject to the NPC's final approval. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
On the 30th anniversary of the World Wide Web, its inventor expressed concern over some of the things it has spawned. This includes state-sponsored hacking, online harassment, hate speech, and misinformation. Tim Berners-Lee calls on everyone to commit to building a better web.
30 years ago, I submitted a vague but exciting proposal for a free, open, permissionless space for all of humanity to share knowledge and ideas. Today, half the world's population is still unconnected, and those of us who are online feel that our rights and freedoms are not fully protected and respected. The fight for the web we want is one of the most important causes of our time.
All right, James, over to you for sports.
Yeah, familiar face back in charge in Spain. Zinedine Zidane is back with Real Madrid less than a year after leaving the Bernabeu. The Frenchman replaces Santiago Solari, who lasted just 5 months with the Spanish Giants.
I left the club because I needed to for myself. I was Real Madrid coach, and the club and the staff needed a change after we won everything. But not just with me, but before even. Because this club is what it is, and it had to change from my point of view in that moment. And now what I need to do and why I made the decision to come back is because the president, Florentino Perez, called me. And because I love the president and the club very much, here I am. The most important thing is that after 8 months, I want to coach again.
Last year, Zidane shocked the football world when he announced he was stepping down after leading the club to a third straight Champions League title. Real Madrid are currently third in La Liga, that's 12 points behind leaders Barcelona. Tennis now, and the defending men's champion at Indian Wells, Alexander Zverev, was sent packing after losing his third-round encounter with fellow German Jan-Lennard Struff. The scores 6-3, 6-1. However, Zverev had an excuse for his poor play. He caught a virus last week. Other players have also been hampered by illness, including Serena Williams and Anastasia Sevastova. Struff advanced to the final 16 to play Canada's Milos Raonic. Other winners include Gael Monfils and Dominic Thiem. NBA now, and the Houston Rockets won their ninth straight game. James Harden scored 28 points to lead the Rockets over the Charlotte Hornets 118-106. In Washington, it was the Wizards over the Kings. Bradley Beal scored 21 of his 27 points in the second half. The final score, 121-115. De'Aaron Fox had 23 for Sacramento in the loss. The Kings are 4 games back of the Utah Jazz for the 8th and final playoff spot in the Western Conference.
And finally, we take you to a massive sculpture in New York. It's the kind of art that entices people to climb. This is the Vessel. It's located in Hudson Yards, New York City's newest neighborhood. The steel structure is 46 meters tall. It's made up of 154 twisting flights of stairs. It's the highlight of a $25 billion mini city. The development includes a hotel, a mall, and a skyscraper. The Vessel will open to the public this Friday. And that is a wrap of our news.
Good night.
In the midst of southern Spain's barren landscape, the Moors built Alhambra Castle in the 13th century as a lush oasis of life, a real-life Garden of Eden to connect man with nature. Tonight, Orient Watch Company Spectacular Tuesday presents Wild Castles at 9:35 on Pearl.